Opinions expressed those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Good evening. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday today. And I'm your host today, John, and I'm back with Mr. Frank.
Yes, indeed. And apparently, No is No. She is very busy with IB classes, right?
International program, yeah.
Right. That's the International Baccalaureate.
Yeah.
Wow.
And right now, instead of like AP or anything, they do all the senior, like all the exams in the back half of the year. So there can be, I believe, up to 2 IB exams per day.
Nice.
So one day it might be paper 1 math, next day paper 2, along with chemistry 1 and then chemistry 2. It's insane.
Well, so the good news is that she'll have the summer break to sleep.
No, she'll be moving.
Right. Well, before she moves, right? But yeah. Right. So, I mean, sleep is not going to be in the cards right now.
No, it is not.
Right. So, well, we like to cover a lot of things. You want to get space out of the way, or you want to save that for last? What's the chef's choice?
Let's get space out of the way first.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
I found something very interesting.
All right. Wait a minute. We got to give you the proper intro. And now, here's John with the local space report.
Okay, starting off, this one's from Nanjing University, which is a university based in China. I believe it's like the second most prestigious university there. It's very high ranking.
Yes.
Anyways, so they had a spacecraft called Chang'e the Chang'e 5 in 2020, where they collected moon samples. And essentially what they found was that it was entirely iron rich in the titanium. It was like full of titanium. So their thinking was we can actually make sort of our own photosynthesis formula out of this and produce oxygen from the moon.
TiO2. Yeah, the O2.
And essentially just gain oxygen there and then be able to restock and refuel astronauts in future endeavors.
Right. Nice.
It's very interesting the way they're doing it as well.
Yeah. Well, you know how there's titanium in everything, titanium dioxide in everything that we use in our daily life. Paint, the white paint, TiO2. There's calcium carbonate, silica silicates, and all that. But TiO2 is used in the white for paper.
Wow.
That's how they make paper white. It's used and I was listening to the morning show the other day, and they even use a little bit of TiO2 in some of the white foods, like the ranch salad dressing. It's
okay.
So, and of course they were kind of freaking out when they're talking about it, right? But in reality, it's just ground rock.
Yeah.
Right. And titanium rock is kind of almost charcoal looking, and it turns snow white when you grind it. And that's how it releases the oxygen. So as a round circle way of going back to your topic. So they release the oxygen actually by grinding it. And then of course, now they've got TiO2 they could sell, bring it back to Earth as a commodity, because we are actually getting low on it domestically. So, on return missions, the delta V to come back to Earth is not that significant, because you only need so much delta V to leave the lunar gravity, and the Earth's gravity will pick you up. And, when the astronauts back in the 60s, right, in early 70s, when we went to the moon, it was a 3-day trip to get there, 2 days to get back.
Really?
So what do you think?
It's definitely an improvement.
Right. So the delta V, is, improvement is, the fact that you don't have to spend that much energy to get up to speed, a lot of speed to come back. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Interesting. Very, very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So next up, we have the James Webb Telescope.
Which is fully done, right? It is.
Everything's fully aligned.
You remember when at the beginning of the year we were saying by May, we thought May would never happen.
No, just yeah,
Right?
And we even talked about the process. Like the process itself is insane. It's been like 2 decades in the making.
Right.
Had to travel across the Suez Canal secretly to avoid pirates.
Yeah. Right.
You know how ridiculous that is
Right.
in the modern age? Secret
Right.
pirates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
you
needed.
can't make this stuff up. No.
And then they had to assemble it. One part gets dropped. Still, they had to do a full rundown of it again.
A full diagnostic. Yeah. They open it up, connect the computers to it, say, okay, and make sure everything is
right.
talking. Yeah.
And then they finally get it up. And then it fully works.
Yeah.
And the craziest part for me was the essentially getting near freezing, just so all the atoms align. That's
Right.
like the killer for me.
Right. I mean, it's just there was I forget the stat, but I remember we talked about it was over 148 points of potential failure.
I think it was 180.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what to say.
Right. And that's just after it was successfully launched and deployed, 140, whatever. But so all the points of failure just to get it there was potential. Right. So, yeah, it's an amazing piece of technology. And so I know they're so looking forward to some of the images that are already coming back are just breathtaking. The previous images were kind of blurry.
And
taken
even before
from,
it was like fully formed too.
No, I mean from our Earth-based telescopes or our other orbiting telescopes, even Hubble. We have the Deep Field telescope, and when you start getting to the beginning of the universe, wherever that is, during the Big Bang, which is what we're trying to achieve with this, right? You start getting to those kind of distances, everything is just kind of a blur. Now it's all these new galaxies are popping into existence in images that we just didn't know. It's just amazing. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just ideas. How do you personally compute with the idea of being able to look back into your past via telescope? Because to me, it somewhat makes sense.
Right.
You have a Big Bang. But to me, I don't know, it just messes with my head.
Right. And it's time and space. And so when we see starlight, with our naked eye,
billions of years ago.
it's we're actually seeing light that was emitted millions of years ago. So that's how I
understand that.
Right.
But at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I just some of this stuff you're right. It's difficult to comprehend. And
something happened. Somehow you can see it.
Well, for our listeners,
right?
The thought is they can't see all the way back exactly to the Big Bang, but they can get to the mere milliseconds after the Big Bang, which is, to me, even trying to understand that, I can't wrap my head around that either. So, I mean, I'm with you.
Okay. I'm not the only one.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for our last bit of space news.
Okay.
This is by far one of the more crazier things that I've seen in the past month, I guess, along with Elon Musk's chopsticks. You remember that when it first came, his chopsticks arms, that was his entire tweet. We should catch the rocket with chopsticks.
Right.
And it works.
Exactly.
So,
well, right now on the launch pad, it works as far as lifting the vehicle. So, yeah, we'll find out We'll find out.
find
Yes.
eventually.
To be determined. Yes.
Okay. Could go on a whole rant again about how he has 3 autonomous ships. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
So going onwards.
Mhm.
So essentially what happened within like the last 3 to 2 days is it was a New Zealand rocket lab company.
Mhm.
And essentially what they're
Howard Beck, I think, is
Howard Beck?
the owner. He's
Howard
the Elon
Peter
Musk.
Beck.
Peter Beck. I'm sorry. Yeah. Peter Beck. Mm-hmm.
So essentially what they were doing is they're trying to like Elon Musk everything and then reuse the
Mhm.
boosters.
Mm-hmm.
So their idea, which as crazy as it sounds, was to essentially parachute it into the atmosphere. And then since it has string and whatnot, like ropes that are fairly and very durable, to essentially take a helicopter with a J hook and then scoop it
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just
and
snag
carry
it out
it
of
back
there.
to safety.
Right.
Keep in mind the booster's 2 tons and it's floating in the atmosphere.
Right. Right. So the mechanically, and we spoke about this before, airtime, but what happens is there are 2 sets of parachutes.
Mhm.
The first set's called the drogue chutes, which are very small and skinny. Excuse me. Did you ever swallow the wrong way? Anyway, sorry. So the drogue chutes, they deploy and they slow down the vehicle to a certain degree, not a lot, somewhat, but just enough so that when the mains come out, it's not going so fast it's going to tear up the mains. That's the whole purpose. Excuse me. So what happens normally with most, like when the capsules come back, those drogues are cut off after the mains are fully deployed. They say, okay, fine, we don't need the drogue. So what Peter Beck is doing with Rocket Lab is he's leaving the drogues attached to the main chutes, and that leaves a rope between the 2 parachute systems, and that gives the opportunity for the J hook on the approaching helicopter to give it something to attach to, and there's obviously enough distance between the 2 sets of chutes that it's not going to
Accidentally hit it.
interfere with them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I just and they didn't talk about it. I don't know if they mentioned it in the article, but so after the helicopter snagged it, it did let it go.
It did.
It did. And because the helicopter pilot wasn't very comfortable with what he was feeling underneath, underneath him. And so it was outside the parameters. And you don't want to lose the helicopter. You don't want to lose the pilot. So there was already a recovery ship directly below them. So it had a soft splash landing, which was slowed down even more because of the helicopter, and so they just retrieved it, and so they'll look at it and do some further analysis. But for their first attempt, they were actually able to snag it and prove that they can do this. So now they have to tweak that a little bit more for the next go around.
Very interesting.
Yes. Of course, they didn't spend too much time talking about the fact that they snagged it and let it go. But if you watch the live feed, which us rocket nerds will do that, we'll watch the live feed, and so the staff that was calling out the play-by-play of what was going on said, well, we still had a successful mission, and they deployed, I think, was it how many small sats? So quite a few. I think it was
Let me look.
quite a few. And they successfully, their second stage, motored up to the proper orbit, and they successfully deployed all the payload. And it was like several. They had more than one customer in their payload bay, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, Alba Orbital and 3 for eSpace.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very interesting. Was there any space news that I missed?
There always is.
This is always a question I have every single week.
Right. Well, let's take a look. Let's see. We'll go back.
I learn something new every week.
Well, yeah.
For those who don't know what I'm seeing, I usually see Mr. Frank's resources, the ones I use,
Right.
and then something else pops up on his screen.
But you're always looking at a small screen. I got a bigger screen. So the
Bigger's better, I guess.
Yes. So here you go. Voyager 1 just fired up his backup thrusters for the first time in 37 years. How mind-numbing is that?
That is mind-numbing. Wow.
Right. So that's why they did that. Probably to change its had to be changes or orientation or a little directional nudge one way or another.
And I also heard SpaceX's Crew 3 have departed from the space station back to Earth.
Okay. All right.
I think that's almost all of it for this week, at least.
Yeah. And they're still on and off again about whether or not Russia is going to be participating in the International Space Station.
I think it was delayed to 2028 is what I've heard, because
it
is a cooperation between all
right. Rogozin, I think, is the gentleman that's in charge for the Russians, and he said that he was because of the lack of materials that they can get from the U.S. and things of that sort. They're saying that we're going to
delay,
bug out early. We're going to bug out early from the International Space Station.
Oh, wow.
But then somebody else representing the administration there in Russia said, no. We're going to honor our commitment till 2020. So we're getting mixed messages. But Rogozin he's all in on being out. So
we talked about this before, because the ISS is a cooperation between most of the world.
Right. So we have, except China.
Right. So each country usually has one or two parts that are floating up on the space station. It's just like Canada's arm and whatnot.
Right. Canada supplies the robotic arm. There's more than one. And because it used to be when the shuttle would go up there was a robotic arm on the shuttle as well in the payload bay. And which is kind of neat, because the reason why they did that was to have a device that they can snag satellites out of space and put them into the cargo bay to return them. Or they can place a satellite out of the cargo bay and make sure it was clear of the spacecraft before, they let it go, so to speak. So rather than just open up the payload bay doors and just let it float out, I think they worry about it bumping into the shuttle, the spaceship. So yeah, not a good result if you do that. So the solution was a robotic arm, and it's been very successful. And they said, if we could put it on a shuttle, we can probably put it on the space station. So so it goes.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's about
it. Those are the big heavy hitter items. So there was a launch abort. Russians ID cause of Soyuz launch abort, released dramatic rocket video. But that may have been that. I don't know if you remember, about a year or so back, there was a Soyuz launch that that they had an abort as.
Really?
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. They had kind of a rough
in
landing.
Modern history.
That happened, I think, about 2 years back, something like that.
I need to watch this. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, but that was pretty exciting, and they whatever the problem was, they remedied it. I knew at that time there was openly discussed what the problem was before they went ahead and relaunched the Soyuz. Could you imagine? So we retired the shuttle, and then the Soyuz had an abort. It's like row, and SpaceX
Become a thing.
had not been cleared for manned launches yet for the Crew Dragon. They had the Cargo Dragon working. So yeah, so it was pretty, exciting. So, but anyways, so apparently there's a whole video. There's a dramatic rocket video that as apparently it was a deformed sensor causing the harrowing Soyuz rocket launch abort that forced its American and Russian crew to perform an emergency landing. So,
Wow.
yeah. So there you go. So that just came out on space.com. And there you go. That's everything that we could tell you about space.
Okay, I'm not much of a sports guy.
All right.
Practically not at all. But I found this very interesting. So, of course, everybody knows Diego Maradona and the Hand of God.
So you're talking about soccer.
Yeah, I'm talking about soccer. So
Right.
essentially what happened was, I believe it was World Champions. So it was World Champions, and it was extremely close match. And the way it pretty much ended was Diego Maradona clearly touched the soccer ball. It went into the goal, and I believe it was essentially him pretty much throwing it into the goal.
Oh my God.
Whoops. And this was clear as day. And the ref was essentially like,
I didn't see it.
And he clearly got into the ball without any means.
Oh my
So
God.
it created an uproar.
I guess so.
And what happened was he traded with another soccer player in like the quarterfinals after. And essentially it went on auction for 7.1 million euros, which I think is probably about like $9 million in USD.
Right. Which sold for more than Babe Ruth's baseball jersey.
It's the highest that's been auctioned in like the entirety of all of history, and sports, at least.
Yep.
No, it's crazy.
So we really should, before we go to break, we should
read our sponsor.
We should tell our listeners that we have a brand new sponsor for today's show.
Indeed, we do.
Yes.
Okay, so our new sponsor is Sailfish Roofing. Okay. Sailfish Roofing is a locally owned company that above all offers honesty and integrity in everything that they do. You can trust Sailfish Roofing to use quality materials and workmanship designed to give you peace of mind whether you're doing re-roofing, repair, or replacing an existing roof. Sailfish Roofing is a community roofing company that you can trust. Call 772-263-ROOF.
Very good.
Thank you for the sponsor.
Yes, we thank him very much for that. And
it's about time for break.
Yes, it all times out rather well.
We'll be back.
We'll be right back.
And we are back from our scheduled break.
Right. Do you know what today is?
What is
It's
today?
May
Mitch?
5th. Do you know what May 5th means?
What does May 5th mean?
It means Cinco de Mayo, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a caller on our newsmaker line. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, Frank, you're having a COVID fit there with the cough, and I
Oh,
thought
my
maybe you'd
God. I
call in and lend
swallowed.
you a hand. Do you
Did
have your test kit, the free test kit?
Yeah, my test kit. My
Did
test
you-
kit.
I ordered those.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, the post office brings them. Yeah, I took the test. I passed.
Good. Very
Yeah,
good.
that was before I went up north and everything. But yeah. So you know you're lactose intolerant. Chocolate milk, you can't have it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
let's not do that again.
That's right.
Hey, you got a new roofing company there. I might
Yeah.
give him a call. A friend of mine who lives up north,
Mm-hmm.
you know, his insurance company. Apparently, all the insurance companies now are like telling people they got to redo their roofs before the period that they thought they had.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a good business to be in. I was thinking about during the 04 hurricanes, there was a guy. They said in Port St. Lucie, I guess, he was bragging to all his neighbors because he had already scheduled to have his roof redone right before, right after they gave it to him right after the hurricane in 04, and then we got hit again.
Right.
I think he had it done right after the second one.
Wow.
And he was bragging to all his neighbors that he was scheduled to have a roof put in at that time anyways, and they honored it. They didn't go to all the other people that were begging him to do theirs. So him and his wife, he was bragging, I got my roof. And, you know, the government was going around putting those blue tarps over all our roofs. Well, he had to get on the list before they came and did his roof, his new roof. Went out shopping with his wife for a couple hours, who knows where. He came back and they had stapled through his brand new roof with the blue tarps.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, and his neighbors were laughing their butts off because he was bragging about it, apparently. And he was on the list. Those guys, they get an address. He's on the list, man. You got to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the fable back then. And I've heard a lot of people say it. I guess it was true.
Well, yeah. If you read it on the internet, it must be true.
How's everything going?
Good. You know,
Pretty
here's
good.
something I just read on the internet, so it must be true. Cinco de Mayo is truly a day to celebrate. For people who have come to know the true story of the origin of Cinco de Mayo, it is my pleasure to set the record straight. A little known fact is back in 1912, Hellmann's mayonnaise was manufactured in England. In fact, the Titanic was carrying 12,000 jars of this condiment scheduled for delivery in Veracruz, Mexico, which was supposed to be the next port of call for the great ship after it stopped in New York. This would have been the largest single shipment of mayonnaise ever delivered to Mexico, but as we know, it did not make it to New York. So the ship hit an iceberg and sank, and the cargo was lost forever. So the people of Mexico who were crazy about mayonnaise were eagerly awaiting this delivery. Were just very upset about the loss. So their anguish was so great that they declared a national day of mourning, which they still observe to this day, Cinco de Mayo.
You're kidding me. That's real?
No, I read it on the internet. So
I was going to say, my ex-wife was Cuban, and her mom used to make mayonnaise
right.
when they were still stuck there.
Right. Now, Cinco de Mayo actually is a yearly celebration held on May 5th, which commemorates the anniversary of Mexico's victory over the Second French Empire at the Battle of Puebla in 1862, led by General Ignacio Zardoza. So there you go.
I didn't know that when I lived in Los Angeles. All I knew was a lot of good food.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
yep. Karaoke music.
I saw a thing today that kind of bothered me. It was talking about St. Lucie and Martin County in the top 5 in the nation, overcharging for apartments or rental houses. And they're saying that, the houses now are getting crazy. I guess a lot of people are getting priced out. But I remember this happening right after the '04 hurricanes hit us. All the media was saying how overpriced, especially Florida was, and this and that. But so many people are moving here that are just sick of up north.
Yeah.
So the prices are going to be high for a while.
Well, when you got 5,000 people, we used to have about 800 people a day, 800 to 1,000. Now we have over 5,000 people a day. Net.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. You drive this way from up north. All you see is Ryder Rentals and U-Hauls and the car, one of the cars on the back of a trailer behind it, and then the wife and kids in the car behind that, the other car, and it's just amazing. So I think things are going to stay pretty high for a while, at least for Florida. But I remember in '04 when they started doing that. I mean, they were waiting for the bubble to burst, and they just kind of fueled it in the media. And we didn't need that after the '04 hurricanes, and we got hit with both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not a good time. Not a good time at all. And stocks had a little problem today, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
what they close at?
About minus 1,000, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's not bad because they were up to like 1,400 or something, near it or something at one point, I think.
Yeah.
They usually drop a little bit before the bell.
Right. So what happened was yesterday they were up 900 points, and then today they're down over 1,000. So they gave back the gains plus a little extra.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
At least it didn't. It's only 100, but yeah, it's just scary, anyways.
Yeah,
but,
of course it is. Yes.
I parked all my stuff. I probably lost a little money over the last year or so because I expected panic before this. And who knows, this could rebound the other way tomorrow. I don't know. I just like being safe at my age to have it the way it is. What else you got?
Well, if you're in Russia right now, you're probably going to be doing okay when it comes to grain, because apparently the Russians are spending a lot of time harvesting the grain sources while they're wreaking havoc in Ukraine. They're dragging that grain back to Russia, and I see there's a picture here on CNN's website of a John Deere combine unit being hauled away on a train. So not only are they cashing in on the grain, they're getting some of the John Deere equipment. So
they're like Hitler. They're taking all the artwork and all the treasures. And what's the oil like? The oil reserve in the ground there in Ukraine.
I don't know how significant it is, but it's fairly significant enough to be an attention getter. I mean, Ukraine is uniquely positioned. They have ocean access. They are one of the bread baskets of Europe, and they supply a lot of things around the world. Most notably, I think one of the fertilizer ingredients that are used by our farmers comes from Ukraine.
They have a lot of natural gases. They also have like a lot of metals such as like titanium and such, which are like extremely high dollar.
Right. So they're pretty flush with resources, potential resources, both real and potential. And
so you think that's part of the reason that Russia's doing a smash and grab like these people?
Well, they're trying to make the most of what they've got. Personally, I think that I think they thought it was going to be just so the leader of Ukraine is a guy who used to be a comedic actor.
Oh
yeah.
Right. So he figured it'd be just a cakewalk. Would be the intelligence analysts that we have here in the U.S., military intelligence analysts, were predicting a couple, 2-3 days. And the Russian analysts were thinking maybe they would be able to topple the Ukrainian government in maybe under a week, maybe 5 days. And it's just so. Anyways, they're in for a real tussle. It's very interesting. Watching.
What do you think their main goal was? Was it all this stuff that they're taking?
I think it all goes back to much of the conversation that we had many years ago with Ukraine after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And as long as Ukraine was independent, separate, and wasn't making too many waves about being buddy with the West, I think Russia was, well, not specifically, more likely Vladimir Putin was.
He's KGB. He wants the old Russia, right?
Right. So I think, yeah. So he would have been fine if they were within the old Soviet orbit still, right? But now that to have a country that was Western leaning, part of NATO potentially, only a few hundred miles from their doorstep, it was untenable for him personally. So just like we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, to have Cuba with Soviet missiles 100 miles from Florida was untenable for us. So I mean, on a certain level, I get it. I think there could have been more conversation. I don't think the smash and grab needed to take place. But anyways, it's just, but this is what happens. You have people that have ideas and really don't always see the big overarching picture. They think they know the picture. They make mistakes. Tough to own up to your mistakes. It's I think it's a combination of a lot of those things.
Look at what Russia and China are doing in South America.
Right.
I mean, they're trying to get as close to us as possible.
Right.
And
yeah.
So and what's the difference if Ukraine's a couple hundred miles away? I mean, nowadays you can launch things from anywhere. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't get it. I think Putin's kind of nuts. Ex-KGB, wants the old Soviet Union back, and I think he's nuts to begin with. He's been nuts for a long time. I mean, you got to be nuts to be KGB to begin with.
Yeah. Well, he's got a very, very small cadre of people in his circle that, and the people that disagree with him, they've been known to disappear.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
same thing in Cuba.
So
everywhere.
What happens is when you got a guy like that, you tell him what he wants to hear, and of course, so the bigger another. I mean, there's so many levels to this story. So you got all these generals that were given a pot of money to do maintenance and things on their vehicles, to take care of the vehicles. They didn't do that. I saw images, those things on those tanks, they have this explosive charges that they put on the body of the tanks. They're supposed to deflect away incoming missiles and stuff like that, so that the damage wouldn't be so pronounced on the vehicle. So there was this tank that got overturned, and there was these packages were opened up, and inside of them was empty egg crates instead of explosives.
Oh wow!
Right. So that means the general or whoever was in charge of that unit, the money that was supposed to have been spent for that ordinance
went somewhere else.
Went somewhere else.
You might as well put Nerf all around the damn thing.
So you've got troops that have no idea where they're at, what they're doing, what's going on, because they're not told a whole lot. And they're not getting fed well. So they have to raid. They have to go into towns and raid the towns for food. It's just a bad situation.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's true, but the president of Ukraine says that they're leaving wounded behind. They're leaving. They care very little about their soldiers and their troops.
Right. Well, they carried so many people, so many bodies back. There was this caravan of buses that I saw images of. The windows are all blocked out, and they're just carrying all these buses back to Russia. So what are they bringing back? Well, the speculation is bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, who knows where Russia, look at Stalin. He killed more people than Hitler,
well, yeah, I know.
his own people.
But they don't
And
talk about that. It's just like if you're Chinese, you don't have any notion about what Mao did.
Mm.
yeah. Look at Japan,
right.
kamikazes and
Mm-hmm.
if you fail, stick a sword in your belly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, these dictators, when they start, they don't treat their troops very well, do they?
No.
Yeah.
So,
All right, guys. Well, I won't
right.
hold you up anymore.
Yep. Thanks for calling.
Good to talk to you guys, and have a good rest of the week and good weekend.
All right. You too, Bob. Thanks a lot. And we'll be right back. Stick with us. We have much more to cover.
And we are back from our break. Okay, so starting off, I guess we should talk about Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
Okay, so essentially, this has been in law for some 50 years,
Yes.
half a century.
We've been debating this since I was in debate in high school. So here we are 50 years later having a conversation.
Again. Okay.
Right. So so Roe v. Wade was decided. And interestingly enough, a lot of scholars believe that knowing what we know now about the unborn,
Hmm.
and when life begins and all that sort of thing, that Roe v. Wade, that decision may not have happened quite that way, may not have happened at all. So it's just kind of an interesting thing. So, anyways, so to touch on what you were talking about,
Mhm.
the somebody that clerks, either clerks or potentially could have been
They leaked it.
at justice. So there was a draft um, document that was written by one of the justices, Alito, I believe.
Yes.
And the draft talks about the fact that Roe was poorly decided and explained why.
And they're wanting to overturn.
And so in this draft, he talks about overturning Roe. So there's more than one story here. There's the
Right.
story about Roe. It's also the story about leaking. So the importance of a deliberative body like the Supreme Court to be able to carry on a conversation amongst themselves is critical for them to flesh out what they want to say and how and make their decisions. And it's not appropriate in any way, shape, or manner for that information to get leaked out. So yeah,
It's
so
an interesting situation, to say the least.
right. So Democrat Senator Mark Warner condemns Supreme Court leaker, calls for the prosecution to the fullest extent of the law. And
Question: what would happen if it's a justice?
well, that would be an interesting thing.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not suspecting that,
Right.
but if that is,
And I don't know what the law prescribes. If there's any, we'd have to get a legal scholar that knows something about um, the judicial branch
Aspect.
and what the laws governing the judicial etiquette. If there are, excuse me, if there are any laws, but anyways, I'm not too sure. It's very, very, very strange times that we live in. That's for sure.
very much is.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing onward. Okay, let me find that. Okay. So we recently had our next named spokesman for the White House. The previous one being, I believe, it was Miss Paskai.
Oh, the current one is Psaki.
Yeah,
Yes.
Saki.
Mhm.
I cannot pronounce that.
Yeah.
And the next one, his name is Carrie Jean Pierre. Oh, like Nana.
Yes. That's right.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she's supposedly going to be the next spokesperson for the White House.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yes. And then Miss Psaki will be moving on to MSNBC, and nobody. We talked about this before airtime, but it seems to me that there is the Hatch Act at work here, and no one seems to have been interested in pursuing a potential violation of the Hatch Act. And for those of you that don't know what the Hatch Act is, it is a federal regulation or rule that prohibits government employees from seeking employment while a government employee. So you can quit your job as a government employee, and then it's perfectly agreeable for you to, unless you are contractually or told that you can't do it for some time after you complete your government service. That's sometimes some limitations as well.
Right, as long with
Right.
countries and whatnot too.
Right.
And then quite immediately following.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting subject.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Frank,
Yes.
I'm nearing my senior year.
Yes.
I have like 4 to 3 weeks left
Yes.
of my junior year. Any
Yes.
advice?
So enjoy your junior year. The junior year for me was my most favorite.
Really?
I thoroughly enjoyed my junior year. Senior year was, well, yeah, it was just
You're in
like,
go mode.
yeah,
You're out the door. The school wants you gone.
right.
Exams,
Yeah.
exams, exams.
Right. But yeah, junior year, it was a very productive year for me, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, enjoy. In fact, enjoy your summer break. You know,
Enjoy it while it lasts.
yeah, senior year is tough because you got a lot of stuff getting ready for college, but it's all good. It's
all
all
good?
good. You can do it.
You can do
I
it.
have every confidence in you. I'm still waiting for the pictures to come back from your stint there in Texas.
Oh, I did not send you any of them?
No,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
but share them with our listeners. So for those of you that don't know, tell our listeners what you did.
Okay, so I went on a robotics competition tour, and well, not tour. Essentially, we competed in Tennessee, and we competed in Tennessee. We competed in Nashville and whatnot. We also competed in Orlando.
Right.
We won our regionals in Orlando. We went to Houston, Texas,
Right.
and the venue, like the arena
awesome, right?
itself. No, the arena itself
Yeah.
was the size of my school.
Isn't that nuts?
It is nuts, and
Wow.
the venue was like probably 5 to 6 times the size.
Wow.
It was insane. Music, everything. The competition itself was amazing.
And you got a chance to visit with kids from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part.
There's like some 20 teams from across the globe. It was amazing.
Great. And who won ultimately?
The Cheesy Poofs.
The who?
Exactly. This is their 5th year running and winning.
Yeah.
They're a very good team. It's just a very amusing name.
What country are they from?
The U.S.
Yeah,
I think they're from New Jersey or New York.
All right. All right. All right. They did the U.S. proud.
Yeah.
All right. And then you do us proud every week on Treasure Coast Forum.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And we'll be back next week. See you then.